We mistake our personal brands for our logos or our Instagram feed. That's a horrible way to start because you're telling the audience how you want them to think of you. I'm not creative or I don't have a story.
What do you think is the content that's missing right now?
Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Video Blueprint Podcast. We are excited for the best hair and most words in real estate. Brad McCallum, welcome to the show.
Guys, thank you so much for having me here.
You threw out some big titles there. That was a lot.
Most words in real estate?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're the best with words, and you tend to use a lot of them. That's all. That's why we're excited to have you here.
Did you guys want me to go through my bio, or where do you want me to? Okay.
Well, listen, Brad, like I like to think that most of the people listening kind of know who you are. They know about your business.
Kind of a big deal.
You've built this amazing team, which we got to hang out with last night. Awesome humans that you've
Saints,
got.
I would describe them as saints.
Saints, yes. And really built it on, I think what most people would think is videos, is YouTube videos as the foundation. You've done some stuff on the other platforms, but they're like, man, Brad's built this business on video.
But what I want to talk about today is door knocking and your experience.
I was going to say, is there a question coming, or are we?
This is in the podcast world what we call, and I don't know if this is the podcast world. In my world, we call setting the table.
Well,
The
like
lead-in.
Yeah. So I like to set the table so you can deliver your masterpiece of a meal.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, we're good.
So,
Gonna get to the interviews first. Awkward pause.
So the other thing that I want to note is when we talk about Brad's team, he's got his team in here setting up because they're shooting content later, and so they're in here just absolutely crushing, right? And setting up. So it's funny when we're like, oh yeah, Brad's team, like they do all the work. Like they're literally in here doing
the work.
They're doing the work now.
Got a camera on a gimbal and lights being set up. I love it.
Well, I will say this. So we're at this Real Summit event right now, and I had an agent walk up to me today, and he's just like, "How are you so consistent?"
Wait.
That is hilarious.
What was the question?
How are you so consistent, Brad?
All right, go on.
Yeah. But the funny thing is like if they can hear me in the background. So Sydney is the McCallum Group's operations manager. She's our events planner. She is the one who just keeps.
I'm actually looking for a planager myself.
A planager yourself?
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's great.
It's someone who plans and manages events at the same time. So she's been fantastic. Then of course Levy, who maybe you'll even see in the background as he's setting things up. I think he's got to be the best videographer.
He comes to like slap you across your face when you lie about something.
No, he's literally the best videographer, I think, in the industry. I think he creates some of the best stuff. And obviously my beautiful wife, my incredible team. I just get to be that guy who just takes the credit for everything. Right?
I was like, is there an ending or a point to this?
This is it.
Yeah.
I just end up getting a lot of good press for the efforts of a lot of other people.
Well, and when I look at the business you built, they're like, oh man, Brad generates business on YouTube, and that's where the things come from. But I think more of what you've built your business on is this personal brand. And as we head into this new space of real estate, I think this idea of obligation as a marketing strategy, meaning I invite you to my event, I pop by with popcorn or something, like just if I give people enough stuff, they'll feel obligated to work with me. Or there's obligation, or there's if I just call them, right? If I prospect enough and I happen to get them on the phone and I have my scripts right and all that other stuff. Like those, for me, getting into the business are the two traditional methods of getting business that I know: obligation and prospecting. And heading into a new place in the industry where I think people are going to think more about the agent they use. I think people with a personal brand are the ones that are going to win. You have much easier conversations with people that want to list your house with you than somebody who got like a Google pay-per-click ad and they bring over their listing presentation and they've got to go try to close this thing. And so that's me setting the table for...
What's the question?
That's me setting the table for why I think personal brand's so important. And that's what I want to dig into Brad about, is how do agents build personal brand right now?
All right. Well, I love this question. I absolutely love talking about this subject. I think that we mistake our personal brands for our logos, for our Instagram feed, for our aesthetic, for our website, our brand colors. Although those might be important on a small level, just as like a call sign or like a dog whistle in the market, like, oh yeah, that's a Brad McCallum, or that's a Turlier Group, or that's a Macy team. Is there a Macy team?
Formally.
Move me to Texas. But they see those elements and they can kind of come back to. But that's not a personal brand. That's a logo. And so a personal brand, in my opinion, it really comes down to one thing. It's your reputation, but your reputation only matters to the consumers if there's a benefit. So your personal brand is actually their benefit. So every great agent that I've ever met in the industry that has built what I deem to be a personal brand is someone who's built a reputation to the people that they serve for delivering them something that is unique and valuable to that person. So if it did not have value to their clients, it has no place, I believe, in our marketing. It has no place in our businesses.
Let's start with misses. Let's start with where we not misses like the misses, but like
not Tila.
Not Tila, but let's start with
Don't mind if I do.
The directions that agents go when they go in the wrong direction. Like, what do you think is the content that's missing right now?
I think we do. We make the mistake oftentimes of telling the world how we want them to view us, right? So in that first introduction, like, hey, my name is Brad McCallum and I'm your Calgary referral agent, right? We see that happening at conferences all the time, or we see that happening in our content. We shoot a video and we just think way too linearly. Like, I do this thing, I want this action to happen, so I need to tell people literally what I want it to happen. And one of the things that we do in our marketing constantly is Levy will say, do you need to say that? Or does the visual say that? Does it tell the story?
Constantly. He's like, did you need to be
say it?
In that shot?
Listen, the reality is about all great content happens not so much on the camera, it happens in the editing room, right? It's actually taking away all the unnecessary and leaving just what is actually vital. And what is vital is what is valuable. And what is valuable is the only thing that matters to the consumers. So I think when we start a piece of content and we start by saying like, hey, not just like, hey, I'm Brad McCallum, I'm a local area real estate expert. The problem with that is that we're not showing any proof yet, right? So if I'm going to create a video and I'm going to be talking to people about how I'm like your local Calgary real estate expert, and I start the video like that, that's a horrible way to start, because you're telling the audience how you want them to think of you without yet showing them that you actually are that person. And so we think that, well, but I've read all the analytics and people dip off in the first 30 seconds, so I've got to make sure they remember who I am. But they don't know you that way. And if you walk into a conversation and you say, hey, I'm a top agent, or I'm this, or I'm the best in my market, all I'm thinking of is all the ways I think you're full of shit. Like, that's all I'm thinking. So if you tell me, hey, I'm a local area expert, I'm like, prove it. I want you to prove it, right? And I'm not going to stick around because I already don't like that approach. So the one little shift on it, in my opinion, is if agents go and create their content and then just take that introduction and just leave it at the end. And at the end, if they then say, hey, by the way, after they've demonstrated who they are, the value that they bring, the knowledge that they have, they then say, by the way, my name is Brad McCallum. And then instead of saying, I'm your local expert, just say something aspirational. Like, I like to consider myself a bit of an expert on real estate here in Calgary. So if you have any interest in selling or buying, let me know if I can help.
You mentioned the audience retention thing, and like, oh, people, 30% of these people drop off in the first 30 seconds, everything else. It's like, those people are never going to work with you.
Yeah.
So why are you worried about? It's the people that make it all the way through at the end. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love the CTA at the end, because the people that watched your 8-minute video, like, you've earned the right to have a CTA.
You've earned permission, right? And you would never see all of us, someone come out and say, by the way, I'm Tom Brady, right? And, I won this many Super Bowl rings, right? Or I'm Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Like, they're not introducing themselves like that. So yourself, if you're showing up in someone's feed and someone opted to follow you, you have a little bit of fame with those people. Just a little bit of fame, enough that they don't need to see you and then have you reintroduce yourself over and over again.
I'm curious. Did he just compare himself to Tom Brady and Leo? Is that what just happened?
Real estate.
He's saying he's the real estate Tom Brady.
Actually, if you guys watched the roast recently.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing to that.
So we're turning this into a Brad McCallum. No.
But if you go to Houston, for example, right? People know Katie Day. They know your marketing and stuff. So you don't need to, for someone who's already following you, start off by saying, hey, I'm Katie Day, right? Because ultimately, if you happen to say something that's of value to that client, they're going to want to know. And the biggest mistake that we make as agents is we think nobody is, like, we've been taught for years that people don't value us, don't want to learn from us, don't want to talk to us. So we're going to do everything we can to remove friction around getting their contact information. And that's a big mistake. The thing we should be doing is building a brand that people will jump through hoops in order to go find.
Well,
No, I want to get a little.
hold on. Just disclaimer for the audience. Okay, this is going to seem weird for them because I'm going to compliment Katie. Now, yeah, she's like, okay, I'll be quiet now.
Got my attention.
Your brand is in you made a great point in which people like try to say what they want their brand to be. They try to speak what they want their brand to be. I'm the number one agent. I'm the market expert. I'm a market expert. If you go to a Tom Ferry event and you bring up Katie Day, people say things. They say, oh, yeah. No, but honestly.
I'm just going to leave now.
Yeah, no. People say,
Katie loves
Day.
when you talk about her.
Katie
by the
say,
way.
they say, oh, move me to Texas. Oh, she's that agent in Texas. Oh, she runs that team. She's amazing. She's great. She's this. She's that. Your brand is what other people say about you, not what you say about yourself. And I honestly, like, truly think you're a good example of that because people rave about Katie. Katie never raves about Katie.
Not sure why.
And that's the thing. Like, that's what the difference is.
So so when you say it's what other people say about you, the only thing they're talking about, because people are just people, they're only talking about how it mattered to them, like what they got from it, right? Like, that's what makes someone interesting, is how you got value from them and how you were impacted. And so if you're building your brand based on how you want to be perceived, but not the actual value that you're bringing to someone else, you're building the wrong thing. So you have to understand who you're trying to serve in the first place before you even have a shot at reaching them.
Did you guys watch the Tom Brady roast?
I did, yep.
And so, you know how, like, throughout the roast, Kevin would just turn to Tom and be like, fuck you, Tom. I think that's evident to Brad throughout the pod. She's like, fuck you, Brad. And that's going to be, like, my segue into the next question.
Oh, that's great.
Jeez,
Yeah.
We are very close friends, and this is going to be an explicit rated content.
No, I consider Brad
Just
to be
don't
a
say
close
anything
friend.
about Robert Kraft, and I'll be okay.
We should-
Yeah.
I won't get
The
upset.
massages. No, anyways. So,
Hey, put the E next to this episode.
I have okay, I'm sorry. I'll say fudge you since we're in Canada.
Thank
But
you
anyways,
very much. I don't swear. So
yeah, okay. So for those that don't know Brad, like, we made the joke kind of that, like, if you're watching this, you probably know who he is. So, like, he got started out by doing long form property tours. He taught himself, right? And taught himself via YouTube, bought an expensive camera, did the things, has now grown his business into something that, you know, he has teammates and he has operations. What was it? What was the
Planager.
Planager, yeah.
He's got a
Planager.
Planager.
the best
you know,
manager in the business.
Yeah, best videographer, best planager, all the things, right? And so that's what you built your business on. You were talking about how you shouldn't start your video of saying, hi, I'm Brad McCallum, and if you want to buy a home in Calgary, I'm your guy. Let me now show you this home, right? What tactically for an agent, if they're doing a property tour, like, because your $1 million tours, your property tours for houses, all of these things that you do, you've always had a way with, like, telling me why I should watch this video without saying this is why you should watch this video. So can we talk a little bit about your hooks, a little bit how you do intros into videos? Because it's not you standing outside of the house talking about welcome to 123 Main Street. My name's Brad McCallum.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we have, and agents ask me about this all the time, is the idea around, like, oh, but I'm not creative, or I don't have a story. Like, I don't know what the story would be. And obviously, we're in the same boat. I think in a lot of cases, we're selling average properties that don't really stand out. And the challenge, though, is that, like, we're salespeople. Like, that's our actual job, is to represent these people's homes and sell the home. So it's like not having a story around what makes that property special, in my opinion, means that you shouldn't be the listing agent. Like, if you can't tell a story about that property, who it's for, what it means, then you shouldn't be the one representing them. And I do think that there's ways around this. Like, don't rely on your own storytelling ability. Ask your clients. Like, ask your clients right off, like, hey, listen, like, what's your favorite room in the house and why? Like, on a Sunday morning, you got nothing to do that day, right? Snow's falling, middle of winter. Like, where do you go grab a coffee, and who do you hang, and what do you do? Like, where does your family all gather, when you guys stay in, or whatever it is? Those little stories about what they loved and what made that property so special are hacks, right? Because people don't buy square feet, and they don't buy just the the 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home that you show them. They'll oftentimes buy the 3-bed, 2-bath home if they connected with it emotionally. So if you don't understand what's going to draw someone in, then you're going to be in trouble. Yeah, there's always, of course, the strategy, like you're saying, like the hooks, right? Like, I wish I knew these 3 things before or the 2 things that I would consider before I ever bought this house, or the one thing that blew me away after all the different homes I toured and this property. Like, you can use all those things as like elements, but that's where it has to stop. It has to be based around something that revolves around a story that makes a connection.
Well, and I don't think that, like, for your tours, I don't think that you generally are saying, like, these are the 3 things you know about this house and, like, jumping out in front of the camera. It's what you were saying earlier when Levy's like, do you have to say that? Could we show it?
That's right.
And so, like, I think sometimes it's fast cuts. I think sometimes it's, you know, can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a great point. Right.
I do want to stay there for a second, because I do think the underutilized thing that agents don't do enough is get that information from the seller.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think enough agents are going in there when they're thinking about their marketing, asking, what do you love about the house? Tell me about, you know, how you would market this. Because as agents, we want to come in there and tell them how we're going to market it. And we want to have all the answers when they have more of the answers. And shout out to Byron Lazine, like, his listing intake form has a bunch of questions for them, what they love about the house.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a form, so Katie will like that part of it. And
there's a system around it, not just Brad being like, on a Sunday when it's snowing, where would you go travel?
But on the same hand,
Sydney,
you can ask
form.
that question on a form, right? Like, you can take Brad's.
Sydney's recording this and putting this into a form right now.
Yeah.
So this is great.
This is great.
ChatGPT has actually already transcribed it, given her the takeaways that she needs to now implement, because Brad said that they do it.
Well, this is why I'm such an advocate for agents to have some sort of literacy around creating content themselves, because until you do that, you end up putting it all, right? You think, well, I hired a videographer, so they're going to be the creative director, they're going to be the script writer, they're going to be all those different pieces. But if you do it yourself, and I remember and forget all the same lessons on every shoot we ever go to. Like, it's just a fact. Like, you get there and you get busy, and you're like, all right, we got to get this hook. I'm like, this house is incredible. It sits on 4 acres with a half-acre pond, over $1 million spent in landscaping. It's a 3, and Levy's like, Jesus Christ, I can show some of this stuff, right? Like, and I'm like, okay, what's the 3 things in my mind that I just need to hit, right? Like, there's brevity that is important. We can still show all of those elements, right? Some days I'm a little bit more on, some days I'm not, but because I have a vision of how I kind of want it to look, because I started off doing it myself, I think that's been one of the ways that Levy and I have been able to find sort of a balance of creating something that is great. And I, if you've noticed, if you follow my content, I'm like, it's been in fashion and it's been out of fashion. Like, people were like, long form is dead, everything's short form, right? And then everyone's like, oh, short form is dead, everything's got to be long form now, right? Oh, one keystone piece and break it up into little, and it's like all those different pieces, and it's like, we just try to do the thing at the end of the day that actually serves the client. And so that's why we're never like chasing dollars or commissions or listings, because that core business is always served.
I'd love to hear a little bit about what you do to prepare for a shoot. And so, like, you know, you said that when you're at the listing appointment, you often ask the seller, you know, the things they love about the home, the things they love about the area, the things that they do, this and that, right? And so then when you go home and you're like, oh, this is another freaking 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think we all get into that often, right? Of like, oh, this is another house, right? And so what are the things that you do to be prepared to go into it? Like, do you storyboard it out? Do you guys shoot on the fly? Like, what does that look like? And how could I guess the true question is, how could an agent that wants to improve their longer form property tours, right? Because that's what we're talking about, is like the horizontal longer form property tours. How can they improve that to where it's not just like music and cuts of the property, right? To where they can narrate, to where they can provide a story.
I mean, I would say that the first thing that I did, like the way I learned mine, was like, I was watching some cool content from great storytellers like Casey Neistat and Peter McKinnon on YouTube. I went and found Facebook groups. I was sharing my content on Facebook, and other like agents are great, like canaries in the coal mine. They're kind of like, oh, there's something cool happening over here. You should go drop this into another group and show, because there's other people doing that kind of thing. Like, so I started just kind of getting connected, and that's how I got connected with you guys. And then I got inspiration from what you guys were doing. But just like what they were saying during the conference today, is like, you don't go and just copy and repeat.
You guys met back when Tim shot video, is all I was going to say.
Oh, yeah. So but that's the thing though, is like, I still remember Tim, like, I mean, he's gotten like so many miles out of this one little video of him on like a little bike scooter kind of thing. But it was memorable though, right? Like, I mean, you think of like your favorite band in history, and most people's favorite band, even if they got 10 albums, they can name 4 songs, right? So it's like not everything is going to be this big magical masterpiece, but every home does have a story. So if the home itself is not like this luxury, beautiful home with these crazy features that they themselves are the story, then it might be what that home means for a family. Maybe it's an investment property and the story is actually the potential it has. Maybe the story is the fact that this is an affordability, in an affordability crisis, this is a home that allows families to actually get into building wealth for themselves, right? Maybe the story is the lifestyle that it provides because of different elements of the geography of it or whatever. But those are the key pieces, I think, that if you need to find the story.
Diving into some technical stuff, the team's running. What is your like buyer listing ratio? Like how much of your business is buyers, how much of it is sellers?
I think in the past we were probably closer to, I'd say maybe 50-50 to 55-45 listings. The reality is Calgary is just in the middle of a massive immigration, both interprovincially and then from abroad. So right now we're probably more like 75-25 or 70-30, just simply because there's just so many people moving to Calgary every day.
So buyer heavy.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's more buyer heavy. But then we shifted our content to create those same sort of elements that people loved about the high production value of our cinematic tours, and we started to create content around our city so we could capture the same kind of people that would be attracted to our tours. We're now able to capture them through like an introductory to Calgary video.
Yeah. So my question is like, what do those conversations look like at a listing appointment? Why are sellers reaching out to you to sell your house? Because you're not doing like a lot of active prospecting on things. So why are they calling you?
I think people just call us because, I think there's a various number of reasons. There's a various number of reasons that people enjoy, I think, getting the content made for their home. Like some people want it as a memento. Other people see, other people are just fans. They have a desire to like create content or tell a story themselves. So they just love that someone's putting themselves out there. Other people are in marketing and like, oh my gosh, this stuff really, really works. Other people are like, man, you guys, you're actually doing something different. Whatever it is, everyone's got some reason, but it's usually a different one for why the marketing or that differentiation piece that we have, which is our listing tours, why they want to work with us. So when I show up to a listing presentation, if I show up and I only find out then that it was like they just found us on Google, like I'm dead. I don't get those listings because I'm unprepared. They don't know me. There is no like little like, oh yeah, we've been watching your channel for a while. But if I get to a listing, most often than not, people are like, hey, we've been watching you for a while. You help influence us to buy this home. We like your content. We really love your team. We've been watching it for a while. Or our son watches you on YouTube. Like the number one rule in selling is once they're sold, you don't sell, right? So if you walk in and they tell you, hey, this is like what I'm imagining for the opening drone shot, you immediately start talking about what that would look like, right? And so Sharon always talks about making the complex simple. And he talks about this idea of having sort of a process around it. So it's like, we're already well beyond that. Now they're excited in the, like, how do we create this thing? It doesn't matter how much we charge for commission. It doesn't matter everything else because we've proven that long beforehand. So our personal brand, and this is true of so many agents that I know in the industry. This is not like a me thing. This is true of so many agents. They get business from people who want to work with them in a business that most people assume that nobody wants to work with an agent.
You know what you should do? Because like I would assume that someone somewhere is asking.
I feel like you were waiting during that answer to say this.
No, I had a light bulb moment. I didn't want to interrupt you with all of your words. Okay. So you guys probably ask like how you heard about us when someone says, hey, we want someone to come over to talk about selling our property, right?
Yeah.
So you know that they're a PPC, or you know that they came in off the website, or you know whatever. You should get those books that have you can put the video in. And you should send them a book before you go to the property of like, hey, this is what our marketing looks like kind of video.
Yeah.
And like have a QR code on the back for them to go to your YouTube page.
Okay. So we've looked into that. Actually, I've always thought it was a great idea. I am not it's like everything in real estate. There's about 1 billion different opportunities for all of us to go do. I think it's a great one because it showcases our differentiator. Problem is that I can't mail my friends gifts. You know, I mean, like people I care about.
Okay,
the
so
most.
you have a Sydney.
We're aware.
Sydney could maybe
And
do this
Sydney
for us.
or someone on your team could say, hey, this person came in as this lead. It's not a YouTube lead. And you send them the package before do not steal my water.
So I get it now.
And so you would send it out before the listing appointment, and you would include a link to the YouTube, a QR code to the YouTube for them to go look at the YouTube. And so they would see this like video, and it would be you on camera saying direct to camera, hey, I'm Brad McCallum and I'm so excited to meet with you. Our team's so excited to meet with you to talk about selling your property. I know it's one of your greatest investments and we don't take that lightly, blah, 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 blah. You can workshop the scripting, and then be like, we just wanted to give you a little taste of like what our marketing looks like, and and you can scan the QR code in the back to check out more videos, and I can't wait to see you soon, whatever. And that could be like a bomb, but the tangible book being sent to the house, I think is a game changer.
And
like
to build on that, not piggyback, but build on that. I do think, and I'd love your feedback
Feels
on
like
this.
piggyback, but okay.
A little bit.
I think people are really kind of sucked into the marketing that you do. But I have to think that if there was anything in their back of their mind that could be an objection, it's okay. This guy makes great videos, but how's the process? And when they get hit with that video book, I think it immediately handles that.
Yeah, I like that. One of the things that we've been talking about on the team is just, I think the way it goes with everyone is as you grow your business, right? As you start bringing in other people. And so I've got 5 agents on my team that aren't me. And sometimes we get people, YouTube leads that are like, hey, we want to work with Brad McCallum. And very early on, I left a lot of business on the table because I felt like I had to be involved in everything. And then I forgot the number one rule that nobody really wants a real estate agent. A seller just wants a buyer. I realized that I could empower my team by getting my team out there to talk with them. But now we've been talking about this for like 6 or 9 months. And I promise you today that at some point in the future, Tom Ferry, Jimmy Mack, and Sharon Sriracha will be sharing our pre-listing video process with the world, because we've been talking about scripting and creating that marketing piece that gives those people that have been introduced to us a little taste of what our process is, that provides that proof behind it. And then hopefully by the time an agent shows up, if it's not me, I've already had a chance to impact those clients with some of my I think most important notes during a listing presentation.
Yeah. No, I just think that like the actual video in a tangible thing would just be...
It'd be cool.
I
think it also, one of the things that we've thought about that I think would be a great closing gift to would be to build upon.
Book out their video.
Is to book out their video, send it to them so they have it for the next house. So when they show their friends, it's that thing right in their hands.
Make those like the ones like that wedding videographers use that are like a little bit nicer than like the little books that I'm talking about that you would send.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like those are probably like $10 US dollars.
Yeah.
A pop. But like the wedding books are probably a little bit more.
$20 to $30 Canadian. Gotcha.
Yeah. But I think you could afford it. Yeah. Tim, you just pulled a tissue into the screen.
Hey. We'll see how it goes.
It's fine. It's fine. It's what I'm laughing at is like Levy set up the stuff for you to shoot. And so we have like the 2 cameras that we were working on, and he set up 3 more. So right now I'm just like staring out into this like sea of cameras.
What's interesting about it is we're going to be filming a podcast after with Jimmy Mack, and shout out to the Brandit Podcast being released next week.
The what?
The Brandit Podcast. Why would you make me repeat it? Brandit Podcast. And so we've got a couple of Nikon flip phones here that they're filming this on with, and then we've got 3 professional cameras.
You want to know what's
lighting.
great? Do you want to know what's great about
is that
this
you'll
podcast?
have 38 episodes released before we get the next one edited for us? Or released?
He knows.
Yeah, I do know that. I know that.
So our goal, Brad, is to release an episode every week. And basically Tim's moving. We both have a lot going on. Like I'm having a kid. We both have a lot going on in our lives. And I said, okay.
Oh yeah, you guys are the only one with busy lives. Yeah.
So fuck you, Brad. So basically I was like, hey, before you move, we have to shoot this many episodes. And so we've done that. And then it was like, once you move and before I have my kid, we have to shoot this many episodes so that we have like this bank of episodes. So just so you know that with content, you can do this thing where like you shoot a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
And then it's like ready to go for a later date. Hey, Jimmy Mackin's in the building right now. And Tim actually had to step out of the pod. Jimmy, do you want to hop in and just riff for maybe 5 minutes before we wrap this up?
Oh, this is going to be great.
This is hilarious. The best part of the Jimmy Mackin podcast that we shot earlier that we will release before you is that Tim had this little coughing fit and had to walk away, and Jimmy was like,
It's always a decision between releasing it sooner or having anyone see it. You know what I mean? It's like how much.
Oh man, it's such nice people. All right, so those are the nice headphones. We got the shitty ones. Your mic's not yet on, but I can turn it on.
Oh, now I'm in control of the board?
No, you are not in control of the board.
All right. Okay.
What's
hey.
up?
Oh, there it is.
You gotta hold the mic the entire time, huh?
That's a sexy voice.
Well, yeah, but like when you're a guest, but when you're the host. Tim said we didn't need tripods, but I brought one in case. And then
Yeah,
he's like, no,
appreciate
you're
that.
not using that.
That's
We're giving it
nice.
to the guest. So
All right, so catch me up.
No, we're just talking about personal brand. We're talking about the things that Brad's doing, his journey. I was talking to him about, like, he was saying when a lead comes in, it's like a Google lead or something like that. Oftentimes, scoot a little bit this way. Oftentimes, he doesn't get the deal because they haven't already seen its marketing. They're not bought in like they are on YouTube. And I was telling him he should send out books, with the video and and a QR code to the YouTube page to get them like into his world before he goes on the appointment.
One of the more interesting things about brand that people don't talk about, and this is one of the parts I think that
Wait, if this is really good, just save it for my podcast.
okay. This is the warm up before your podcast, Brad.
This is the prep.
I was talking to I think Sharon about this earlier. This idea that Jesse Peters actually, that when people try to quantify brand and they try to say, well, what's the value of brand? How do you measure brand? The way I think about it is, in an American football game, as Katie knows, like you get into the red zone, and marketing's job is to go from wherever you're starting to get the ball in the red zone. Sales' job, that one-to-one personal experience, is to actually put points on the board. And if you are putting yourself in a position where if you do not invest in brand and you do not put the effort to kind of build your name recognition, what happens is sales starts to do marketing's job, and it's expensive and it's hard. And it's demoralizing. So I think the thing that people don't maybe appreciate about brand is brand has this sort of second order effect of raising the impact of every single thing that you do. And we've heard experts on brand talk about this idea that like you're comfortable buying what is basically a headset from Apple, right? Because of you're not going to buy a headset from Samsung. You probably shouldn't buy a headset anyways, period, at all. But
no.
But
even if
Brad's
you are,
got 5.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. And but this idea that brand has this sort of, again, this halo effect for everything else that you do makes it so much worth making the investment. And people don't appreciate that, especially for people who haven't seen or experienced the benefit of it, is the point, Brad.
Well, so when we talk about brand, one of the things that I really think about, like with a brand, and especially someone's like Brad, is his hair. And so that's a large part of his brand.
Great point.
And
You're talking.
camera just died. So my question is,
Yeah.
that camera just died here. You want to use my phone? We're good? Keep it rolling? All right. So my question is, if you guys had to go head to head on who had the best hair
Yeah. Yeah.
in the room today,
Yeah.
who would prevail?
I think first I'll give my reaction, Brad, and then you can give your reaction. I'm glad we're saving this for this podcast, not your podcast.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant was asked this one time. He's like, "Hey, who's better, you or Mike?" And he's like, people don't realize that I couldn't exist without Michael Jordan. And I think right now that's what me and Brad are experiencing.
Who was
I was like, wait a second.
who was first?
I can give this. I concede this to Jimmy. I've seen some of the older headshots.
Yeah.
Jimmy. Is it a soft J? Yimmy?
Some, yes. While we're in Canada.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yimmy Mackin. No, but you've evolved over time. I've stuck.
Yes.
I've stayed with it.
Yes.
It's a thing.
If only you could grow a beard.
Well, I would like to think I could. I wouldn't. But what I do in my world with my friends is I try to let my friends shine. I try to let the people
Thank you.
around me shine, have their own audience, their own theater.
Okay, so we didn't really get an answer to my question. But I appreciate you guys being. I hope that you guys battle it out on Brad's pod.
Oh, I don't know. When are we doing your pod, Brad? Here
As soon as we're done with this.
In about 3 minutes. These guys are all ready to go.
Yes.
Second we
Everything's
get
set
this,
up.
Okay.
Yeah, this
So,
little
yeah.
circus out of here.
All right. Is this where you end the pod?
Yeah, no. So on that note, thank you guys for watching.